Welcome back, and in this lesson you're going to create access keys for both the IAMadmin user in the general AWS account as well as the IAMadmin user in the production AWS account. And then I'm going to step you through how to install the AWS command line tools and configure those tools to access the AWS products and services using the access keys that you create. So this is going to put you in a position where you're able to use the AWS command line utilities to interact with both the general AWS account and the production AWS account. Now we're going to start off in the general AWS account, so you'll need to be logged in as the IAMadmin user of the general AWS account. Assuming that you are, click on the account drop-down and then select My Security Credentials, because this is where you configure access keys. So as I mentioned in the previous theory lesson, access keys can be created for IAM users, and this is what we're going to do here. So to create a set of access keys, it's as simple as going to My Security Credentials and then clicking Create Access Key. So when you create access keys, you'll be presented with both the access key ID, which is the public non-sensitive part of this set of access keys, and you'll also see the secret access key. Now I'm not going to show this on screen for security reasons, but it's by using both of these parts of the access key that you'll be able to interact with the AWS account. You can't do so only using the access key ID or only using the secret access key. You need to use both of these together. Now if I just click on close for a moment, you'll note that I now have one set of access keys. I'm not able to get access to the secret part of this anymore. All I can see is the access key ID. So if you generated a set of access keys and you've misplaced the secret part, then you'll need to delete them and recreate them. Now you can make access keys inactive by clicking on Make Inactive and then confirming that. And you can follow the same process in reverse by making access keys active again and confirming it. When access keys are inactive, they're still present and attached to the one particular identity, but they're not able to be used. Now you can have two pairs of access keys, so I could create a second set. And once I've got two, I'm unable to create a third. So you can only ever have two sets of keys for one particular identity. And it's worth noting that this is two sets in total. It doesn't matter whether they're active or inactive. So generally, you will have one set of active access keys for any identity, and you'll use the second to perform rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and delete both of these sets because I didn't note down the secret component, and so they're of no use. So what we need to do at this stage is to create a set of access keys for both the IAMadmin user of the general account and the IAMadmin user of the production account. So we'll start with the general AWS account because that's the AWS account that we're currently logged into. So go ahead and click on Create Access Key to create a set of access keys, and then click on Download CSV file. So we're going to save both sets of these credentials to a CSV file on our local system. You need to make sure that you store this securely, so don't put it on any cloud storage. For now, just store it locally on your machine. Now it's going to call this document IAMadmin_accesskeys.csv. Now this set of access keys is for the IAMadmin user in the general AWS account. So go ahead and locate where you've downloaded this file to, and then just append general onto the end. So call it IAMadmin_accesskeys_general.csv. So in my case, I'm just going to select it and then add underscore and general at the end. And this just helps distinguish between the IAMadmin user in the general account and the production account, because we're going to have two completely separate set of credentials. So now that you've got that, we're good to move across to the production AWS account. So you'll need to click on the account drop-down and sign out. Then you'll need to sign in to the production AWS account, and you can do that using the IAM user's sign-in URL for the production AWS account. So type IAMadmin, enter the password for the IAMadmin user in the production AWS account, and then you'll need the MFA code. Enter that and click Submit. Then again, we'll click on the account drop-down and go to My Security Credentials. Scroll down, Click on Create Access Key. Remember, these are access keys for the IAM admin user in the production AWS account. Click on Download CSV file, locate the file that you've just downloaded, and as we did previously, we're going to append _production onto the end, just so we know which account these credential files map to. Okay, so now we're finished with the configuration for the console UI. Next, you'll need to install version 2 of the AWS command line interface. Now, I've included a link attached to this lesson which details how to download and install the AWS command line for Windows, Linux, and macOS. In this demo, I'm going to demonstrate the process using Windows. The installation process isn't all that complex. The important part is the configuration, and the configuration is the same on all of the supported operating systems. So if you open up the URL that's attached to this lesson, it will open a page which should look something like this. You'll see that there are instructions for Linux, macOS, and Windows. So select the correct operating system, so the operating system that you're using on your local machine, in this case Windows. If you scroll down, you'll see instructions on how to install it on your particular operating system. For Windows, you need to locate for the latest version of the AWS CLI, and you'll find a link to an installation package. So go ahead and click that link. It will download an installation file for Windows. Depending on the version of Windows, it might take a few seconds to scan that file for viruses, but go ahead and click on it, and that will open the installation. Go ahead and click on Next. We'll be accepting all of the defaults no matter what the operating system, so just perform a default installation. In the case of Windows, I get a user account control dialog and I need to accept that. The installation will take a few minutes to complete. Once it's completed, click on Finish or close down the installation application. Again, this is slightly different depending on which operating system you're using. Now, because I'm using Windows, I'll now need to open the command prompt just to verify whether these utilities have installed correctly. If I just run an AWS and press Enter, if I see usage instructions which look like this, then it's been completed successfully. If you see an error indicating that the application or the command is not found, then you might need to restart your operating system, but in this case, it's completed successfully. You can verify it properly by running AWS space _ and then version and press Enter. And if it's working correctly, you should see AWS CLI and then a version 2.something.something. The important part is version 2 because this brings significant enhancements over version 1 that we will be using in this course. So now I'm just going to maximize this to make it easier to see. What we're going to do now is configure the command line interface. Now, the way that the command line is integrated with our AWS accounts, or more specifically our identities or users in those accounts, is we need to configure a set of credentials which the command line interface will use to communicate with AWS. Now, the way that we configure these credentials is to run an AWS and then space and then the word configure. Now, if we just use AWS configure, then this configures the default configuration profile for the command line interface. And this default configuration profile is what's used if we don't specify what's known as a named profile. So the command line interface allows us to specify named profiles, and it's these that we can use to configure multiple AWS accounts. So we can have a named profile for the IAM admin user in the general AWS account, and we can have another named profile for the IAM admin user in the production AWS account, and that's what we're going to do. So to configure a named profile, all we do is add a space on the end, and then _ profile, and then a space, and then the name of this profile. Now, what I suggest you use is IAM admin _ and then general. So this is the name of the profile that will connect to the IAM admin user in the general AWS account. Logically, for the named profile for the production account, we'll be using IAM admin _ production. So first, let's configure the profile for the IAM admin user in the general account. So it should say AWS space configure space _ profile space IAM admin _ general. Go ahead and enter that and press enter. Now at this point it's going to ask for a number of pieces of information. It's going to ask for the access key ID, it's going to ask for the secret access key, it will ask for a default region and then a default output format. So first we'll need these credentials. Now these are contained in these files that you saved earlier. So first you'll need to open up the document which contains the word general. So these are the credentials for the IAM-admin user inside the general AWS account. So open up this document. Now this document will contain an access key ID and then a comma, and then it will contain the secret access key. So you need to copy down the access key ID, so the part before the comma, don't include the comma. Copy that into your clipboard and then paste this in where it says access key ID. And it should look something like this. Make sure you get all of the characters and then press enter. Then it will ask for the secret access key, which is the part after the comma within the credentials document. So copy that into your clipboard and then paste that in. Next it will ask for a default region, and we're always going to use Northern Virginia, which is US-East-1. So go ahead and enter that and then press enter. And then for the default output format, you can just go ahead and press enter and we'll use the default of none. Now at this point, the command line interface has been configured to integrate with the IAM-admin user of the general AWS account. And to test that, we can use AWS space S3 space LS and then a space. Now this will run a listing of any S3 buckets in this account. Now we won't have any S3 buckets, and if we don't have any buckets, it will simply return an empty string, and that's fine. But if it returns an error, then we know we have a problem. Now if we just ran this command on its own, we would get an error because we haven't configured any credentials as part of the default profile, so it will tell us unable to locate credentials. Because we've configured these credentials inside a named profile, we need to specify that named profile on the command line. So I'm just going to type that command in again and then follow it with double hyphen, profile, and then a space. And then I'm going to use the named profile that I've configured previously. So IAM-admin-general. This time if I press enter, now that I run the command with the named profile, we won't get the error. This time it will return an empty string, and that's fine because we don't have any S3 buckets within this account. It's a brand new account. If you've already created any S3 buckets, or if you already have any resources in this account, which you shouldn't do because it's a brand new account, you might see a list of buckets. But if you're following the instructions as I'm giving them, you should have an empty list here, and that's fine. The only thing you need to worry about is if you receive an error message. If you receive an error message, it probably means that you haven't copied down either the access key ID or the secret access key in their entirety. And to fix that, you can just go ahead and rerun the AWS configure command with this named profile on the end. If we just rerun this, it will offer us the ability to just re-enter those values. But in this case, because we didn't get an error, we don't need to do this. The next thing we need to do is to follow the same process, but this time for the IAM-admin user inside the production AWS account. So to do that, AWS space configure, space double hyphen profile, space IAM-admin-production, and then press enter, and you'll be prompted for those same 4 pieces of information. So now we need to open the IAM-admin credentials for the production AWS account. You'll see the format is the same. We'll need to copy down the access key ID, which is everything before the comma. Copy that into your clipboard, paste that in, and press enter. Then the secret access key, everything after the comma. Copy that into your clipboard, paste that in and press enter. Again, the region will be US-East-1, so enter that and press enter, and then press enter again so that we don't set a default output format. And now we should be able to run AWS space S3 space LS space double hyphen profile space IAM-admin-production. and again press enter, and again if we don't receive an error, if either we receive this empty string or a list of buckets, that means everything's working as expected. Now just before I finish up with this lesson, I've been fairly open with showing you these credentials on screen. Now this is a huge security risk. If you have these credentials right now, then you could log in to my AWS account. Now when I'm recording this lesson, what I'm going to do is replace these credentials. So although I've configured my command line interface using these credentials, the minute I stop recording, I'm going to go back to the AWS console, delete these access keys, and then reconfigure my command line with brand new credentials. The outcome will be the same, but it simply means that I'm invalidating the credentials that you've seen on this video. For day-to-day usage and for your purposes, you should never show these credentials to anyone who you don't want having access to your AWS account. So whenever you generate credentials, it's important to understand that for anybody who has the access key ID and the secret access key, they can utilize the IAM identity that you've configured together with any permissions that that identity has over this AWS account. So if you leak your IAM admin credentials, then anyone who has those credentials can interact with either your general or production AWS accounts as the IAM admin user. Because that user has full administration permissions on the account, the results of that can be disastrous. So you need to get into the habit of being extremely careful where you store these credential files and to whom you grant access. So it's really important to start off being really paranoid and really careful about these credentials. And going a step further, at this point, you should probably delete both of these credential files. So the one for the general AWS account and the one for the production AWS account. And that just means that all of these credentials are safely configured within the command line interface and not stored anywhere where they can be accessed by anyone but you. Now at this point you've configured everything that you need to as part of this lesson. So you've set up the AWS command line interface and you've configured two named profiles, IAM-admin-general and IAM-admin-production. And these are what we're going to use throughout the rest of this course whenever we need to do any work using the command line. At this point you've done everything that you need to, so go ahead and complete this video, and when you're ready I'll look forward to you joining me in the next lesson.